meeting to order. Could the clerk please take roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor.
Here.
Councilmember Hammond.
Present.
Mayor Garrett.
Present. I invite everyone in the audience and council to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will take a motion to excuse both Councilman Barksdale and Councilman Jennings.
I'll make a motion to excuse council members Barksdale and Jennings.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. I don't know why I'm getting out of breath. We don't, well, you can take roll call. But seeing that the three of us already agreed.
Okay, Councilmember Hammond
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Cantor.
Yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Approval of agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to remove items G, H, I, and K because we don't have the required four-person quorum to approve the financial expenditures, and then to add item L, which the topic will be to appoint Board of Review Commissioner.
You said G, H,
Section
I,
7, right?
Yeah, section 7.
And K?
G, H, I, and K.
and you-
G, H, I, and J, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, wait, what it is. Yeah, G,
Mhm.
H,
Mhm.
I, K.
No J.
No
No
J.
J.
Okay.
And then add item L, which
Or
is,
G.
well,
Well,
we have to remove them by
All right.
letter. So add item L to appoint Board of Review Commissioner.
Second.
It's been moved to second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes. Motion carries. Next, we have a public comment for items on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes only. And if you would like to be heard, please come to the podium and give your name.
I'm Karen Miller, I'm short. I'm here to challenge the petitions that are on the agenda this evening. We received copies of the petitions, and going over them, I have found forged fraudulent signatures on the petitions submitted by circulator Tiara Baker, and I believe she collected quite a few signatures, so I'm requesting that her petitions be thrown out. And then also, it looks like several circulators filled in the date of signing. And, excuse me, under MCL section 168.544C, if an elector does not include his or her signature, his or her street address or rural routes, or the date of signing on the petition as required under subsection 1, the elector's signature is invalid and must not be counted by a filing official. There are many, many petitions where it looks like the circulator filled in the dates, and that is not acceptable. And so I would like to challenge the petitions and ask that you defer this vote until these things can be addressed. And I also would like to know how many registered voters there are in Lathrup Village at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone? Hearing none, we'll go to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
It's been moved in second. There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor.
Yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes. Next, we'll move into the action request for consideration and approval. First one is a request to approve encroachment license application for 27680 Lathrop Boulevard.
Thank you, Mayor. As council is aware, back in 2021, City Council approved an encroachment license for the current homeowner so they could use essentially the abandoned portion of San Quentin as an extension of their driveway. While that homeowner is looking to sell their property, and the new homeowner who is purchasing their property is looking to get a very similar encroachment license for this process. These licenses do not transfer with the property, so this is a portion of their closing document with this. With your guys' approval, City Attorney Baker and I will finalize the agreement with the applicant, and we will move forward. Applicant is here, but as of right now, they have provided us all the information necessary to complete this, and staff and the City Attorney see no reason not to.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the encroachment license request for 27680 Lathrop Boulevard.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to note that in the packet, the application that we received, there's a handwritten note that talks about insurance, challenges getting insurance, and we learned in the study session that the applicant resolved those issues.
That's correct.
So there is no issue with insurance that also covers the city.
Correct.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Garrett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem
Yes.
Cantor, Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have the request to approve resolution 2024-09 establishing ballot language for referendum petition received regarding charter referendum.
I can address this one, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
So the city council did, the city clerk did receive 2 petitions. First, we'll discuss this referendum petition dealing with the charter provision. Charter amendments, as this is a charter amendment, are dealt with under state law. The procedure requires that the clerk canvass the signatures. They need to verify that there are at least 5% of the registered electorate at the last general election, which there were.
At the last general election, there was 2014.
2014 registered, so they would need to have provided 202 signatures, approximately 202 signatures to satisfy the requirement. The clerk has canvassed that, determined that they had a sufficient number of signatures to meet that threshold. The process then, really council doesn't have to accept this proposal. It's more so because the other one is on the agenda tonight as well. That's why this is being presented to council. Council doesn't have a choice. They have to submit this to the electorate if that threshold is met and those signatures are deemed to be valid. The next step of this process is that it would be transmitted to the State Attorney General's office as well as the Governor's office for review in compliance with the state law. That would then, if that's receive an approval from those 2 entities, and then the matter would be submitted to Oakland County for inclusion on the ballot. The council, the only thing that council does have the ability to do, because the petition contained the wording of the ballot question, if it failed to include that ballot wording, then council would have the ability to include the caption that would appear on the ballot. The council does have the ability to include what's called an explanatory caption if they so choose. This proposal is pretty straightforward. If it's approved, then it would repeal the charter prohibitions on cannabis businesses. If it fails, then the prohibitions would remain in place. I don't believe there's really much that council could offer by way of explanation that would necessitate an explanatory caption. So the resolution that you have before you tonight is to accept the proposal or accept the ballot initiative that has been submitted, and direct the clerk to publish it as required under state law, direct the clerk to submit it to the State Attorney General and the Governor of the state as required under state law, and also to post it as required in the polling locations for both precincts.
Thank you. Who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-09 establishing ballot language for referendum petition received regarding charter referendum.
Well, second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, regarding the concerns that were raised, I assume that's something that would go to the circuit court?
Yeah, that's unfortunately, that's not something that city council can address or direct the clerk to direct. Any challenges to the petitions themselves would have to be filed in circuit court. It's not something that this body could.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor,
Yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes. Next is the next one that we need to make a motion for, which is the approve resolution 2024-10 to submit the proposal provided for in the initiative petition to the electors.
Yeah, and 10's the one to go to the election, right? Because I know you put 2 in there, right? Didn't you?
They're both.
They're
Yeah.
both together.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think I numbered them. I just left them 24 blank. So
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2410 to submit the proposal provided for the initiative petition to the electors and establish ballot language.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion?
if you want, I can give a little explanation
Sure.
on the process on this one as well.
Thank you.
So this petition deals specifically with our local ordinance, Chapter 18, which is currently a prohibition against cannabis establishments in the city. The procedure that council needs to follow for this is directed under city charter, section 7.11 and following. The council really has, and there's 3 options that council could do when they receive a petition of this nature. The threshold for this is higher than the charter amendment, so they're requiring 10% of the registered electors at the last general election to have submitted valid signatures. Council can, upon submission to the council from the clerk, council has the ability to either adopt the ordinance as submitted by the petition, or they can repeal the ordinance or part thereof that's challenged by the petition, which that's really not applicable in this situation, or they can determine this to submit this proposal to the electorates, which was my recommendation, and which is the vote that's on the floor.
So, just to make sure I heard this right, we had 2014 registered voters before, at the last election?
People that voted in the last election is what I was told. People that voted in the last general election, it was 2014.
Oh.
For the referendum. For this one, for the initiative, it was, for the ordinance, it was 1,329 that voted.
Say it again?
1,329. And
It's registered voters.
Yeah, registered voters.
That's how many registered voters
these
there
are
are.
how many were
No,
in
it's
the
how many registered voters.
registered voters.
Okay, so it's 2000 and,
That's what I thought,
Okay.
2014 registered
because we
voters.
didn't have that many votes last year. I got it. Okay, so, okay, that's all the questions.
And 10% of those were
Yeah.
needed to sign the
Correct.
petition, so that's
132.
200 and,
Two-
Sorry,
201.4, but we'll round up.
And how many signatures did they turn in?
We verified 293.
Okay. And that was verified through the QVC?
QVF.
QVF, excuse me.
And did you verify all the signatures that were turned in, or you just stopped at 293?
At 293, we stopped for the ordinance because that was just coming before council.
And the QVF is the qualified voter
Five.
file.
Kept
that
by
is
the state
through-
of
by
Michigan.
the state of Michigan. Okay. That's, any other questions?
You know, the only thing I'd say is, regardless of whether you're for or against this, I think this is a good example of democracy at work. I know it sounds trite, but it really is. I mean, you have a group, I don't know if it was a group or an individual, you know, who had an issue that they wanted to put forth in front of the community, and they created a formatted petition and got the legal number of required signatures, and they're putting it in front of the voters, so where the voters can decide whether or not this is right for our community or not. So, like I said, regardless of where you stand, it's democracy at work. So,
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor,
yes.
Councilmember Hammond,
yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes. Next up is the first reading request to amend city ordinances by addition of chapter 46, miscellaneous offenses.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I can address this. So this is in direct response to some of the ongoing issues that the police department has had on Margate with respect to parties, large parties that have gotten out of control. This is something that the police chief had asked me to look into, and then it was accelerated by the incidents that took place in early June at that property. What I'm proposing to council is that council consider adoption of this ordinance, which would make it a criminal misdemeanor for an individual to either host or attend what's deemed as a nuisance party. And there are, I believe, 10 or 11 criteria that are included in this ordinance, which would what would constitute a nuisance party by definition. This would provide officers with the ability to make arrests on the scene, not have to rely upon resident complaints or a resident coming forward and being a complainant as they would under a disturbing the peace ordinance. So this just gives our police department more tools to enforce and maintain peace in the neighborhoods.
At you.
So I'll make a motion,
Thank you.
yeah, to schedule the second reading of an update to the city ordinances by addition of Chapter 46 miscellaneous offenses, ties, Article 13 nuisance parties.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Garrett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor,
Yes.
and Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have the second reading, request to adopt an update to ordinance chapter 46. Oh, why do I have it twice? Oh, this is for Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec, protection.
46 is getting a lot of attention.
Yes, I see.
This is the second reading of the update to the ordinance dealing specifically with conduct within the parks. As was asked through the revision of the parks rental application, was to allow the city council and the Parks and Rec department to authorize specific instances within which people could either engage in commercial activity, promote any business or commercial venture, fundraise, or require anyone to pay or make a donation to attend an event at City Hall. In addition, we did discuss last meeting about changing the decibel level of what's permitted at public parks. Currently, the level is 65. It was determined that we weren't going to raise that, so the level will remain at 65. However, we did add a provision that would allow an individual that's renting the park or utilizing the park to seek a prior approval if they anticipated that they would be conducting an event where the volume of that event would exceed that 65 decibel level. They could submit their request to council as well as the Parks and Rec department and obtain approval to have an event which would have music or volume just greater than that 65 decibel level. And then we also clarified and just added that the community room is, in fact, even though it was interpreted that it was included under this ordinance, this makes it clear and removes any ambiguity that it was or was not covered.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adopt an update to ordinance chapter 46, miscellaneous offenses, provisions, forfeitures, and penalties, Article 12, Parks and Recreation Protection.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion?
I support this, and I'm going to vote in favor of it because from my perspective, it requires people who are applying to use city resources for events to be thoughtful and proactive about how they're going to use the city resources. So if you're going to have loud music, then you're either going to be required to come to the city council and the Parks and Rec department to seek approval before the event to do that, or you're going to do it anyway and you're going to be in violation of the ordinance, and then enforcement of the ordinance can occur. So I think that's important. I think it's also beneficial to have people being more thoughtful about how they're utilizing city resources, to just have some forethought and some be aware of the neighbors and the other people who are going to be impacted by whatever event it is that you might be having in the city. And I think something like this will encourage people to be more thoughtful. I did have a question for the city administrator. So we don't have a Parks and Rec coordinator on the city staff right now, but we do have a Parks and Rec department. So if an application for authorization to either for the noise ordinance or the having a raffle or having some sort of a retail event occurs, who actually from the Parks and Rec Department would?
It'd be me.
That would be. Okay. That's all. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and the other thing and I asked this earlier, the ordinance that we just did the first reading on would also give them authority to help, enforce some of these.
It helps the police. do
Helps the police
enforcement.
if there's sound violations more than 65 decibels and they haven't gotten it approved in advance.
Right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor Garrett,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor.
Yes.
thank you. Next, we have the second reading request to adopt update ordinance chapter 14, which is buildings and buildings regulations, specifically for the swimming pools.
I can introduce this one as well, Madam Mayor. This is the second reading of the ordinance amendment, which closes the loophole that was current in our ordinance that allowed for chain link fencing to be utilized to enclose a swimming pool. So what this ordinance amendment does is it makes the materials for fencing consistent with what's currently in our zoning ordinance, and that's ornamental iron, wood, composite, or vinyl materials.
I'll make a motion to adopt an update to ordinance chapter 14, buildings and building regulations, article 8, swimming pools, section 14-183, fencing.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion, further discussion?
I like the consistency with what's in the ordinance for other types of fencing in the city. I think it's important that we have that type of consistency for any construction or build out that's happening, whether it's for a pool, a house, a business, what have you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor,
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes. Next, skipping down to appointment to the Board of Review, and this is for alternate, right?
We
Oh,
have
no, Jay.
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 this time.
Oh, I forget,
Yeah.
request to approve the uniform video service local franchise agreement with Comcast, my bad.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're
So every decade or so, Comcast and our cable TV providers need to get a franchise agreement with the local authority. That happens for this round. It happens to be Comcast, Xfinity, whatever you want to call them, and after the city Lathrup Village. So this agreement's pretty standard, pretty boilerplate. What it essentially allows Comcast to operate within our right-of-ways and to provide the service to our residents. In exchange, we hold them to very standard processes that we apply to every single franchise that operates in the city. And then we also do get a 5% revenue share of Lathrup Village to help offset our cable TV and our telecommunications projects. So it's a little win-win. They get to operate in the city, we get a little money from them, and we still do have oversight over our right-of-way. So they still do have to provide or apply for permits and things like that if they do certain work within the right-of-way.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the uniform video service local franchise agreement between the City of Lathrup Village and Comcast Cable Communications Management LLC with a provider fee of 5%.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion?
I think this is a good thing to do because it's consistent with what we're already doing with Comcast and just kind of ratifies and reconfirms the agreement we already have in place.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Garrett,
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor.
Yes.
And last but not least, now, appointment to the Board of Review, and this is for an alternate, correct?
Correct.
And it is for Miss Amy Parsons.
Correct. So just a little background, working with our assessor, naturally, we do have board review scheduled for this week. We do have a full board. Unfortunately, when one of them is unavailable to meet, we get a little conundrum. So since we do have alternates named as of right now, this is why we requested this through City Council. We did advertise this on Facebook and through our website seeking applications. This was the only application we received over the weekend.
Thank you. Who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, Amy, what's her last name? I forgot.
Parsons.
Parsons, as Board of Review alternate.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any further discussion? How long was it posted? Because we have a Board of Review coming up.
Yeah,
that's
so
why I was-
it was posted on Friday, and naturally, you guys are appointing today. Board of review, as of right now, will be rescheduled for Wednesday at noon.
This Wednesday?
Yes.
Day after tomorrow?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
originally scheduled for tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
Just looking at Amy's bio, it seems like she's got a ton of experience as a real estate agent and the real estate market, and so she'll be a knowledgeable addition to, seems like she'll be a knowledgeable addition to the Board of Review.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantor,
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor Garrett.
Yes. Thank you. Passes. City Administrator report.
The biggest thing I have to report is naturally, as council's aware and some of the community is, our new website is live. Staff is still going through trainings. We're learning all the bells and whistles for this, as this is new to a lot of staff that's been onboarded. So if you guys do see pages that are outdated, please just let us know. Naturally, we're slowly making our way through and make sure everything is updated and up to date. And over the next couple weeks, we are going to start embracing the Thrill Share push notifications some more. So I'd highly encourage everyone to download the City of Lathrup Village, Michigan app. So it's on your phone. It works well. We did test earlier today, so I do know it works. And then we're going to start utilizing that for everything from emergency notifications to potentially weekly notices of meetings that are coming up. So we're going to try to utilize it as much as possible.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Nothing for me tonight.
Thank you. Reports for boards, commissions, and committees for the DDA, which they meet Friday at noon. Anything? Oh, okay. Planning Commission?
The Planning Commission meeting is, for tomorrow is canceled, but we have assurance that there will be a Planning Commission meeting in August, even if we don't have any action items to take the action on. There are definitely some things looking at ordinances and other agenda items that the Planning Commission can take on, in spite of the fact that we may not have any action items on site plan reviews or things like that. So it'll definitely happen in August.
Thank you. Parks and Rec, not here. Tree Committee, we have a meeting tomorrow at 4:30 here. School Board, not here. Finance Review Committee,
Yeah, a little bit for that. So a couple weeks ago, we had a very good, productive meeting, Finance Review Committee. Was a little disappointed in the resident turnout, so I do encourage residents to turn out. I actually expected more than 2 residents to be there, especially after we had about 35 residents show up for the town hall. So we do solicit and encourage input, and we'll come to a better solution with the more input that we have. We had at the meeting Brian Camiller, who is the partner at Plant Moran, who essentially ran the meeting and talked about all of our various options to help with the revenue issue. And one of the things that was great was to kind of have an independent confirmation. Brian's really familiar with us because of Plant Moran was our audit partner for a long time, and then he also directly ran the accounting services when they consulted with us. So they had several engagements with us over the years, and then they had a bigger engagement with us as our former treasurer left, and they stayed on a couple months, a month.
Pretty much the past 6 months.
Yeah, past 6 months. So very familiar with our books, and it was great, just to have independent confirmation. He said at the meeting that while there are always some expenses that a city can find to cut, the city's issue is a revenue. The city's finance issue is a revenue issue, not an expense issue. So he confirmed that the problem that we have is revenue, and stated that it was basically based on a lot of the things that we talked about at the town hall and at our first finance review meeting. So things like Headley, Prop A, the real estate crash of 2008, reductions in state share revenue, inflation, and so on. So it was good to have that independent confirmation. He also discussed a variety of options that we can do to help with the city finances. The 4, I guess, most probable ones, if that's the way to refer to it. The first one is that we do nothing, in terms of revenue, and then we don't have the revenue to support all of the things that we want to do as a city, and we have to start looking at some services to cut. So that is one possible scenario. Another one was that we talked about was a public safety millage. So that's to support the fire and the police, and so we raise money through a millage for the fire and police, and that frees up other funds out of the general fund that can be put towards maintaining services and possibly even increasing some services. Another option was a Headley override, so I'm not gonna get into the details now, but, you know, Headley reduces, our chartered millage rate is 20 mills. And what ends up happening is Headley lowers that from year to year for a variety of reasons. So I forgot, what, 17.3? Yeah, so we're down to 17.3, so our power to tax and raise revenue has reduced substantially, you know, over the years. And so a Headley override would reestablish that at 20. And we did one of those back in 2010. And then the fourth of the probable, or possible, I should say possible options, is Public Act 33, which is a public safety special assessment where council can designate the entire city as a special assessment district, and then dynamically from year to year, council could then decide on how many mills to levy based upon what its needs are, what our needs are as a city. And then we discussed a lot of options that you know, that we're going to discuss at our next meeting as well, but they're probably not likely. So for example, one was a road millage. Well, we're not spending, first of all, we're already paying for a road millage, and second of all, we're not putting significant funds from the general fund to the road. So adopting a road millage wouldn't help us out, you know, wouldn't free up any money that you know, for the general fund to spend otherwise. And then there were other things, like I had never heard of this one, a publicity millage. So municipalities have the ability to levy a millage for up to $50,000 to cover, you know, communication costs. But it's a low dollar thing with a big effort associated with doing it, so it's probably not likely that we'll consider that. But we do have our next meeting tomorrow at 5:30. Again, I encourage people to come and provide your input. And we'll be discussing all of these options in detail with the idea of trying to eliminate the ones that don't make sense and then starting to get into the detail about the ones that might be likely for us to consider and recommend to council. So that's it.
Thank you. Unfinished or new business? And we are back to public comment. If you would like to be heard about anything that you heard tonight or anything you have on your mind, please come to the podium and state your name. And you have, you're limited to 3 minutes to speak. If anybody would like to be heard.
Good evening, Council. My name is Leslie Burton, and I live on Margate in close proximity where the shooting took place earlier this year and the party from last year that was totally out of control. And my concern, since there's such an upsurge in these block parties, which last year, theoretically, that's what it was, does Lathrup, the city of Lathrup, plan to forge a relationship or coalition with these other communities to prevent that from happening in the future? And my other concern is the ordinances. I heard you mentioned something about the ordinances giving the police officers more latitude. Are you going to be enforcing new ordinances to help us, the residents of that community? And also the ordinance that's on books already, are you going to be enforcing it? My concern is these parties are lasting up until 5 o'clock in the morning. Is there a curfew in place? Is there a capacity limit in place? And also with the incident that happened several weeks ago, of course, no disrespect to our police department being small, what capacity can we be assured as residents that the Southfield Police will be there to take up the slack to ensure that we have a safe community? As of November, I would have been in my home 34 years. I have never experienced anything like this, and it's enough. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Hi, good evening. I'm Josh Burke. I live across the street at 27460 California. I came tonight because I recently received a surprise water bill that was very high, and like many villagers, posted about it on the Facebook so that we could discuss it. I appreciate that Councilman Cantor reached out to me to talk about that bill. We didn't come to a resolution on it, but
More information for you tonight.
yeah, I appreciate that. I think that we will come to a resolution, and I just wanted to point out that I appreciate that someone heard me and reached out. Secondly, about the ordinance regarding the decibel limit and the parties in the park, I think that there's going to be something read tonight about a group of us who live along the park who have concerns about the parties that are held there. Personally, our berm has been damaged multiple times by party goers, I would say, and I often find trash in my yard that I don't appreciate. So I'm hoping that whatever you institute, hopefully there's some education piece to the people who are renting the park to remind them to clean up after themselves, to be respectful of the neighborhood, and to not abuse the parking situation in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. Adam Laurie with the Lathrup Village Music Festival. I think this is the last council meeting before the festival. It's August 10th. So just want to let you guys know everything's coming along smashingly. All the artists are very excited. We're all really excited that we've put together something we feel is really special, that we're looking forward to putting on for everyone's enjoyment. So just getting up here to encourage everybody to show up. It's all day, August 10th, from noon to 11. You may see these flyers all over town, right? If you'd like some, there's some on the table out here. But yes, please come. If you have questions, anyone wants to know anything about the festival, please talk to me. We're happy to be open and let you know what we plan to do, and look forward to having a great time with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to be heard?
Hello, I'm Autumn Susanna, Rainbow Drive. Hello, everyone. So I've done some research on the water bill. I have some cards here. Can I stand at the microphone? I don't know how to do it. Okay. So the majority of us who have gotten that bill, I'm sorry, let me start over. Every one of us who got the retroactive bill have a 1.5 inch water meter, as it says on the paper. Our bills look a lot like this. These are 4 different people's bills. Everyone's bill is public information. It can be viewed on bsaonline.com. I highly suggest everyone who's a resident familiarize yourself with your billing, because it's actually a pretty user-friendly website. You'll notice there are some spikes, Mr. Green. See those spikes? That makes it very hard to see what's going on, because some of those spikes, well, first of all, they're erroneous, and second of all, they're in the, like 5,000 units of water. Each unit is 748 gallons. So that's a lot of water. It's about 1 million gallons of water, erroneously charged. Now, this is what, if you parse out the data and avoid those giant spikes, you can see that the people who were billed erroneously with the 1.5 inch meter bounced from 0 usage to 10, or 0 to 20, or 0 to 50. Here's 2 examples. Here's what your typical water bill should look like. It should vary. Your water bill should go up and down with your usage. Okay, that's not what happens if you have a 1.5. Something happened back when they switched us from, one of my charts wouldn't print, but what used to happen was we were billed quarterly. That's right here. Quarterly billing moved into monthly billing. Something terrible happened here, and a lot of people fell right off the chart. There's some gaps in the data where we fell off the chart. Why did that happen? That's what we need answered. And so here is another example. Did I already show you this? Of what happened with the bouncing from 0 to 10, 0 to 20. This one is going up to 50. This one's going up to 50, 2 months in a row. People aren't using 1 million gallons. Now, here is where the real question arises. This is an example of a billing, two different people's billings. My arrows mark where those were adjusted. They were erroneously billed, in this case, $1,457.
Thank you, Mrs. Suzanis.
And they were
Ms. Suan-
adjusted away. And lastly,
Ma'am,
Painter Charles.
you're out of order.
This is
Ms.
Charles
Suzanis.
Lawson, in your
Ms.
permission.
Suzanis.
You can all come and look at this.
Ms.
after.
Suzanis, thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Anyone else?
Can I give out of my 3 minutes?
Yeah, can
No,
we give her
no.
a chance to say something?
No, no. You can come up to speak.
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
We haven't done all 3, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna take your.
No,
yours.
no, 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 no,
No?
no.
All right.
Okay, so, thank you.
Noted.
Is there anyone, it's on, it's recorded. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard?
Ian Ferguson, Lathrup Village. Let me just extend a warm appreciation to all the residents that actually signed the cannabis petition. We had 2 petitions out there. Actually, we had 400+ residents sign the petition. Each of those petitions, our signatures are valid, and we verified that with our affidavit of identity. Me personally, I ended up gathering roughly 100 signatures, all of which were validated. There are some residents in the audience that actually signed the petition. So I'm extending appreciation to all of the residents that did sign. And actually, we had 3 categories of residents that actually signed the petition. The first category was, yes, we want cannabis in our city. I'm willing to sign your petition. Second one is, no, we don't want cannabis in our city, but I'm willing to sign your petition. And the third one is, I need more information. I'm going to sign your petition, and then you guys will provide information. Those 3 categories that I mentioned, all of them said the same thing right at the end. We respect the fact that you are actually bringing this to a vote for every resident to decide, and we appreciate that. I may vote no. This is what one of the residents said. But I would value more information as we get closer to Election Day. I'm saying we, it's not me. We, the group, we actually brought the petition back, and I hate to say it, so I'm gonna take a breath. We brought this back because, I hope you guys are ready. The city of Lathrop Village needs the money, plain and simple. The state is giving Lathrop Village, the cities this size, $118,000 annually. That money will disappear ultimately if Congress decides to make marijuana legal. The state will never give us $118,000. Why won't we go get that money? Why can't we help our city? That's why we brought it back, and we're ultimately letting the residents decide on whether or not we want this business. I plan on giving information, factual information, as we progress, and I plan on answering those questions that those residents that are on the fence about cannabis, to understand what this business is. If you're a no voter, I respect that. Actually, we didn't go to many no voters, residents, because we knew you were a no voter, and we didn't want to have any confrontation. We respected your right to say no, and we moved on. This is not a personal thing, but in many cases, it's personal because the city needs $118,000. Plain and simple, annually, so we can put it in the general fund. We have a lot of limitations in receiving money for the city, and we just talked about it. We got to talk about Headley. We're literally running out of time, and I
Thank you.
appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Good evening, council. Hello, everybody. My name is Andre Campbell. I just wanted to say thank you for approving my encroachment license application. Looking forward to being a
You're the new
member of,
resident?
yes, of Lathrop Village. So thank you. I yield the rest of my
Thank
time.
you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Lori Coons. A couple of issues. Right now, there's no live streaming of this meeting, and I think it's a very important one for the residents. Secondly, I believe I did see that Ian Ferguson is the person who did the committee to get the petitions. So when he said he had nothing to do with it, your name is on the form. You filed the committee to get that petition going. And when you were asked directly if it was you, no, when you were asked if it was the mayor, you said, oh, no, it's not her. So I think you already knew. Secondly, I would like to ask that when the meeting is in progress, that Kelly and Bruce don't whisper to each other. That's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. I was trying to listen to Mr. Baker, and these two were whispering. It happens a lot. I don't like private conversations. Lastly, regarding the police department, I am concerned about the Margate shooting as well. I know for a fact that our police department is suffering. We can't get applicants to apply. There's no room to move up in the police department here because they don't have anywhere to go. They will patrol their whole life because we just lost Officer Amanda, and it's due to being on duty by herself. And I would like to ask that Cora Morgan do not answer for the police on the Facebook page saying that that was an isolated incident of Amanda working by herself because of PTO and officers' day off. That is a lie, is not the case. And the money that we get for mills for the police is always put into a general fund, and they don't see it. There's nothing to keep officers here, and we need to. And if we get marijuana, Chief McKee said he doesn't want it because we would need more officers. If we can't get 2 for regular patrolling, how are we going to for that? And there's a lot of other issues with the marijuana, not just making $118,000. I don't think people are aware of all the things that go into that. Our city cannot afford the lawsuits that are going to happen when people are promised that they are going to get the business and they don't. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Anyone else like to be heard? Anyone else? Okay, there is a letter that needs to be read.
It's long, let me take a drink. So this was a letter that was received and requested to be read into public comment by Kim Hodge. This is a statement for the upcoming city planning session on Monday, July 15th. Sorry, I'm unable to attend on that date. My name is Kim Hodge, and I live at 27580 California Drive. I'm writing today to ask council not to allow loud music and noise in the rental agreement for the pavilion and gazebo area. I am a huge music lover and supporter, but sometimes it just gets way too loud. Just to be clear, I am not talking about music during the Wednesday night concerts or the Lathrup Village Music Festival or other Lathrup Village events. I'm talking about rentals here. I understand that the current decibel limit is set at 65 and you are considering raising it to 85 or some other similar number. That is probably a reasonable limit. However, that limit is not adhered to. I am sometimes unable to sit in our own backyard or even in our house with the windows open without getting blasted with loud music and pounding deep bass. Last summer I had enough after listening to loud music for 4 hours. I walked over to the gazebo and saw that speakers were pointed away from the pavilion into my direction and very, very loud music was being played. Same thing happened within the last 2 months with loud music for hours. This was, I'm sure, way above the allowed decibel limit and I should have called the police at that time, but I didn't. I'd like to avoid such situations in the future. Could you please make sure that the city staff emphasizes the decibel limit to the persons renting when you rent the outside space? And make sure that the police are aware of and enforcing the limits. We should not have to go inside our houses or close the windows in order to live comfortably when someone is renting the facilities. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Kim Hodge and Tom Brodzik. In support are the following neighbors: Gary Robert and Kevin Bryant, 27474 California. Our issues are with the private rental parties in the park, which is right across the street. In many instances, the music far exceeds the volume of the city organized music in the park and city events. Both the music and in between voice broadcasts and at private events in the park are extremely loud. Also, some of these private parties have gone on past 10 p.m., which is a very long duration of their intrusively loud music. I recommend not raising the volume on private rental parties. Also, I think the Lathrup Village Police should have the equipment to measure the volume and check randomly at least twice to confirm it is within the terms of the rental contract. I echo all of the above. We love our proximity to the park. Oh, I guess wait, this is a new comment. I echo all of the above. We love our proximity to the park for Lathrup Village live music where sound levels seem to be better controlled. However, during some of these private events, we've also noticed similar issues to our neighbors above. I will remind others as well that the decibel scale is logarithmic, so an increase from 65 to 85 is a 10-time increase in perceived sound pressure level. Phyllis Wyndham, 27530 Sunset Boulevard. I agree. I live right across the street from the park, across from the children's garden, and I should not have to close my windows during the rentals. I've also heard loud swearing on the microphone. People in attendance often block my mailbox and park on the edge of my lawn. Chris Smith, 27460 California. It also bothers him when people park on the berm in front of their house, leaving tire marks. Shannon Burke, 27411 Lathrop Boulevard. I second the request to publicize and enforce the decibel limit and to encourage groups renting the gazebo to avoid pointing their speakers at homes. If I can identify the song from half a yard away and sing along, it's probably too loud. Resident from Lathrop Boulevard. Lathrop Boulevard is typically a quiet street, but over the past 3 years, we have often heard loud parties put on at the park. We often wondered if it was a community event due to the noise. We would investigate only to find out that they were private parties. We can hear the music well into the evening, which can be disruptive to a young family with a toddler. As a wedding and event planner who works with venues much less residential than our pavilion, Cushing Field House and Shepherd's Hollow, these venues currently have noise ordinances set no higher than 99 decibels and are strongly adhered to. I feel the current sound limit of 65 decibels has not been adhered to, and we request that you do not increase the allowed sound decibels before monitoring more closely to see what parties are currently playing music at before making a final decision. Sandy Schwartz, 27610 California. Sandy thinks the loudness is noise pollution, and she's very sensitive to loud noises. Sabrina at 27561 California. Please let me know what action is taken regarding this issue. Thank you in advance.
Thank you. That was also just addressing, is there anyone else that wanted to be heard? One more time. Okay. Mayor and council comments. First one, to Ms. Burton. I am deeply saddened that that had to happen, especially being in proximity to your house, actually being in proximity to all of us. It was very shocking. And it's something that unfortunately is seeming like an epidemic in our country, not just in our city, but it now hit home closer because it was in Lathrop Village. So are we going to forge a relationship with other communities? In the big scheme of things, we do have a relationship with the city of Southfield because the city of Southfield did come to assist with that. The reason why the ordinance that we are talking about is coming to be is because of our conversation between Lieutenant Zhang and City Attorney, I forgot your name, Baker, is because I asked if there is something that could be done about that, where what this does, and correct me if I'm not saying this correctly, is that now is going to be levels to it. Or if you come out the first time, that it, go ahead.
No, there's not,
Or-
there's no escalation clause in it. In order, just real quickly, in order to put that in, we would have to make it a municipal civil infraction, which is just a fine. We could escalate the fine by
Well,
the
that's what I
number of
meant,
occurrences. But in order to give the police department the ability to arrest an individual for a violation, it has to be a misdemeanor. Misdemeanors are limited by statute to a $500 fine and or 90 days in jail. So that is something we did discuss about potentially having an escalation, but discussions with Lieutenant Zhang and the chief, we felt it was more beneficial for the police department to have that ability to arrest individuals, take them away, and can break up that event that night versus writing an appearance ticket and
And waiting for a resident to report it.
Yeah.
So those are the steps that we're taking for that. And then I agree that parties that last well past our ordinance of, was it 11 p.m. on the weekends, we do need to step up and make sure that we are, following the rules, or, enforcing the rules, I should say. I believe that the new ordinance is going to help with, hopefully it never happens again, but I think that the new ordinance is going to also assist with these parties, because a lot of the parties have gotten out of hand. Not just all over, but I'm saying that in Lathrup also, as we talked about in our study session. So, and then there was one more question that you asked. Oh, the capacity of the police officers, that's, oh.
Capacity of the people that's coming to the party, because they put it in on social media, so everyone from every place is coming.
So I'm not really sure legally if you can put a capacity amount or a limit on someone's house.
It's, it is something that can be done through zoning ordinances and zoning regulation. It becomes a difficult proposition, because then, to differentiate, so you're gonna have a graduation party or a family reunion or something at your home, and you're now precluded from having a certain number of people. So, in my research on the issue, the way that other communities have addressed issues like this is through the ordinance that we've did introduce this evening, the nuisance party ordinance. That way you can control when it's not an orderly event. Most people in this room probably had parties that have not had the police called on them. So requiring you to go through additional steps to get approval from council and planning commission to be able to host an event at your home outweighs, that burden outweighs the benefit of that type of an ordinance. So again, most communities, and we're actually, this ordinance that we introduced this evening came from is the city of Kalamazoo, city of East Lansing, city of Ann Arbor. They all have similar ordinances. And most of these are communities that have large universities, so they have a lot of house parties, and this is how they deal with house parties that get out of control. So that's what we believe will be most beneficial in assisting our police department.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burke, noise level is being addressed also, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, we do have decimal readers already.
We had one. On City West
Okay. You said, okay, I was gonna say had, I heard the key word of had.
Haven't
so-
seen it in a number of years, but we can get one.
I think you can get an app on
They
your
have
phone.
requests.
Everybody's,
Right, it's on your
when I brought
phone.
up the ordinance, I said my watch, when I was writing it, my son was going crazy, and it said 99 decibels. I was like, oh man, that's a lot louder than I thought. So yeah, it's built into your Apple Watch if you got an
But
Apple Watch.
nonetheless,
They have requested one.
Thank you. Okay. In addition to our study session, it is going to be an educational thing at the counter of how loud your music can be, also about parking, and also about where the speakers are, because my understanding the speakers are facing out, not facing inward. So there will be an educational component about that. So for most of the people that are here about the water bill issue, that will be addressed in a few minutes during, is it a soliloquy? During Mayor Pro Tem's part. So you'll have that answer or a discussion about that. Adam, thank you for the Lathrup Village Music Festival. We actually do have one more study session before it. So it's going to be August 5th. Miscellaneous, that was a wonderful presentation that you took a lot of time to put together. So it'll be addressed once it gets to Mayor Pro Tem. That was very intensive. Mr. Ferguson, thank you for giving us the information and how many people that you actually got signatures. Welcome, DeAndre. We welcome you here. I like Deanne. I don't know why I have DeAndre down here. Andre, I apologize. Welcome. Miss Kuntz, no live stream is because Facebook is down. It has nothing to do with Lathrup Village audio and communications, and it might be back up right now. I see that they're working on that, so that's not a Lathrup Village issue. That would be a Facebook issue. No whispering. I would like, just for my own edification, if you could find that in the Open Meetings Act that says that you can't whisper, because I will tell you what I was saying. It was that I was asking what's the name of the person who is going to be added to the Board of Reviews, because I could not find it in my packet. So I know that, we're not going back and forth, I'm not going back and forth, I'm just trying to give you some answers to what you're saying. The police department not getting money, 50% of Lathrup Village's budget goes to the police department. Over 50%. I'm just answering the questions as they come. So, okay, thank you. And for last but not least, Ms. Miller, regarding the forged signatures, as it was stated from the clerk, that you can go through the QVF, which is the Qualified Voter Files. That is maintained by the Secretary of State, and so you can get in contact with the Secretary of State about the proposed forged signatures that you found. I think that I addressed everyone at this point, and so I'm done. Next,
All right.
who else is up?
I have had a few things, now I've got a few more things. So regarding the live stream, just so people know, the live stream is down, but it's still being recorded for YouTube, so so it will still be available on YouTube. Again, Andre, welcome. Ms. Burton, just the one thing I wanted to add to what Kelly mentioned is, with respect to Southfield, we do have a mutual aid agreement. So if we don't have an officer available because they're tied up with something else, or we don't have enough officers on staff, we have mutual aid agreements with other communities to help out. Josh, you made your comments about the park. I also want to thank you, because I know there have been times where there's been an event at the park and you've gone and cleaned up. I know that's happened a couple times, so thank you for that. All right, regarding the water. So unfortunately, we had an error in our billing software that occurred during one of the update processes back around 2020. Luckily, if you can use the word luckily in this situation, it only affected about 65 residents, not the 1,800 customers that we have. Specifically, as Ms. Susanna said, it's those that use the large 1.5-inch water meters. So basically, those are really designed for customers who are using a lot of water. For people who don't know the technicalities, most of us have 5/8 inch diameter water meters. Some of us have 3/4, maybe a few with 1 inch, but the 1.5 are really designed for people who are using a lot of water. So we found this issue, keeping in mind that the billing is all automated. So the way that we found this issue was during our water loss investigation. So as we continue to look for all of the very, well, let me step back. So a lot of you know we had a very big water loss issue for several years. We did a lot of things to look for that water loss. We couldn't find it, and we were losing hundreds of thousands of gallons a day. So if you think about how much water that is and the fact that it wasn't showing up anywhere, we began to look internally at the possibility of the fact that it could be something that was going on with our billing system in terms of underbilling residents for water that's been used. So we began to look at that. And through that process, we did find some things. We didn't find the smoking gun. But we did find some billing issues. So there were a couple customers that we've recouped about, I think it's somewhere in the near total, about $85,000 in underbilling for 2 of our larger customers. And then one of the other things that we found was this issue that people have been, that 65 clients got back billed for. And actually, to be honest, it was actually surprising that it went as long as it did. So it went for about 14 months before we noticed it. And it's interesting because, so for example, when we were researching this, you take one customer was getting a water bill of around $250 a month pretty consistently. Sometimes it would go to $125, sometimes it would go to $370, which, was fluctuating. Again, keeping in mind these are large water users, but hovered around $250 a month. And then when this billing issue happened, which I'll describe in a second, that customer's bill dropped down to the minimum, which was $56 a month. And that went on for 14 months. So given the educated nature of our population, it was kind of surprising to us that nobody called and said, hey, what's going on with my water bill? It's dropped, substantially. So we never got any of those calls, and so we actually found it is during our water loss investigation audit. So essentially what happened with the software update was the last digit of the read was getting dropped. So for example, let's say at the beginning of the month, the starting read on your meter was 3,000 units. And you used 10 units in that month. So the end read would be 3,010. So you'd subtract the 3,000 from 3,010, you get a total of 10, and so that person would normally be billed 10 units. But what happened was that in this case, that example, the 0 on both of those reads was dropped on the far right-hand side. So what it looked like to the system was that they went from 300 to 301. So the system then did the math and said, all right, that person owes 1 unit. Okay, and we all know that, or at least most people I think know, that in the city, the minimum bill is 4 units. So that person was then billed 4 units. So they used 10, they were billed 4, so essentially they were underbilled for 6 units. Okay, and so that happened, that error went 14 months without being corrected. So unfortunately, the customers used that water. I mean, it was just they were underbilled for it. So yeah, it sucks. I mean, nobody wants to get a big bill. I mean, some of these bills were around $3,000-4,000 because, again, keep in mind these are large, typically large water using customers. So just we realize that it's a hardship, and for those people who are affected, the city can talk to the water department and City Administrator Green, and they can work on some payment options so that it doesn't sting so bad. In response to Ms. Suzanis' presentation, a couple of comments. You noticed the big spikes that you saw where the numbers went up hugely, if that's a word. Those spikes were never billed to residents. So what that was when we corrected the problem, so again, to go back to the example that I used, if somebody was the error had their last read before the problem was fixed and their reading was 300, we had to put them back up to 3,000. So in the system, doing the math, we had to add 2,700 units to get them back up to 3,000, but they were never billed for those 2,700 units. It was an accounting thing to get the system, get the system back where it was supposed to be. The fluctuations, so you mentioned going from 10 to 20 to 30 to 20. Again, with those particular meters, the way this was set up in the system, and this was also corrected with the issue, I'm talking set up in the system back around, I think it was 2010, 2011, was that those were only reading in 10 unit increments. So you might get a 10, as if I can use you as an example, Josh, we talked, and so he was billed 1 month for 10 units, and the next month he didn't use very much water, so he was billed 0 because he didn't get up to 20 units, and he was charged the minimum for that month. So that's why you see the fluctuations, because the larger water customers, these 65 customers, are only billed in 10 unit increments. When we found this issue and we corrected it, and this goes back to our conversation, Josh, they were able to correct the meter readings or make them more specific, so now they're reading down to the actual unit level like everybody else in the cities who has the smaller meters. So that's why if you look on BSNA after the issue, for those of you that had the problem, you'll see you have a much more precise read. It doesn't always end in a 0. I think that was it about that. I just have to make one other comment. I know she's left, but since she brought up the police issue, that issue was an issue that was somewhat manufactured. So there was a line down after the storm, and somebody complained on one of the social media sites about the time that it took that an officer to get there, and then posited that, oh, could this be budget cuts? Then we had a resident who's in this room who then took that and ran with it and said that, this was the budget cuts, these were, I think the quote was Bruce Cantor's budget cuts, and we know that Bruce Cantor wants to get rid of the police, which couldn't be further from the truth. That was brought up as part of our financial analysis, because if you're doing a financial analysis of the city's finances, where the police department represents 58% of the spend, you have to at least ask the question of whether or not there are ways of reducing the cost of policing, via outsourcing or other examples. It's not that any of us want to do it, but if you're being objective, which the person who wrote this information is not, then you would ask that question. And then to the reason why I decided to address this was because then she talked about my wife, who she mentioned, Cora Morgan, who, again, saw all of the division that was going on social media over that one post, and decided to call the mayor and ask why was that officer on her own. And then she turned around and posted online to say that the reason why the mayor was, or when the mayor was alone, that's a whole other issue. But the reason why the officer was alone was because of training. And again, we have a mutual aid agreement with other cities, so if there was something that came up, we were covered. So again, that was an example of asking an objective question to try to get to an answer and posting it, and for that, she was vilified on social media like crazy, and now in person by the person who couldn't stay to listen to the response. So wasn't planning on talking about that, but since it was brought up, I felt that it had to be addressed. Other than that, I just want to say that I think that the hanging baskets this year that the people did, I think it was with Pam and Barb, did a great job. If you go down Southfield Road, they are absolutely beautiful. They did a great job, so thank you for that. And then just want to put in one more plug. Please come to the financial review.
Where is that?
That's across the hall, 5:30 tomorrow. And we would love to hear from you. We've got multiple public comments set in there, so we can have a discussion. Depending on how many people, we can even throw it open more. So got a lot to talk about at that meeting. And like I said, the more input, the better. Because we don't want to operate in a vacuum. I mean, it's all residents on the committee, but the more input that we get, the better decisions that we can make, and better recommendations we can make to council. So, Jason.
I also want to welcome to Lathrup Village Mr. Campbell and his family. We're glad to have you here. Most residents of Lathrup Village don't show up at a council meeting before they buy their house, so your civic engagement is kudos to you. Hopefully you will come back. I bet you will. Regarding the Nuisance Parties ordinance, I just wanted to read a couple things that I think will be helpful for everybody to understand that what this ordinance provides the police things to do in relation to some of the things that Ms. Butler mentioned in her comments. Sorry? Burton, sorry. Ms. Burton. Unlawful vehicular traffic or the unlawful stopping, standing, or parking of vehicles, obstruction of the free flow of traffic, or interference with the ability to render emergency services. So now, if there are cars parked on both sides of the street, once this ordinance eventually is passed, then the police could consider that a violation of the ordinance and take action without a resident having to formally file a complaint.
But that just wouldn't be for both sides of the street. That would be them parking on the grass.
Could be on the grass.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of anything having to do with unlawful parking. Obviously, parking in a berm, parking in a ditch, like all those things are illegal, and they would have the opportunity to enforce that ordinance as a result of this ordinance being passed. The second one is unreasonably loud noise under the circumstances which disturbs the comfort, quiet, or repose of one or more members of the neighborhood. And like in my brain, I'm thinking, well, this will never happen, but what if there was a party that 500 people showed up to, and they're just meditating at 5 o'clock in the morning? Like, you're never going to hear them do it. It's never going to happen, right? But just as an example. But if 500 people show up at a party, now the police will be able to say, oh, there's noise being created here. They can proactively take action if they hear that and are able to to respond to that. So I think we're trying to do what we can in response to not just that incident that happened, but as you mentioned, incidents that have happened in the past. Time will tell if the changes that are being implemented in the ordinance actually have the intended effect. If they don't, we'll keep working at the problem. And lastly, I also applaud Ms. Susanis's research on her homework on the water billing issue. Residents deserve to be informed and to understand the facts of any concern that they might have with anything that's going on in city businesses and how the city is operating. However, I think it's important, and I would encourage any resident who's doing any sort of research around an issue like this to talk to the city and include the city information in the context of their research as well. There are also always multiple sides to stories, and the city administrator and his staff are capable of providing that information in addition to the information that you're acquiring on your own, so that that can be considered in the context of any public statement that might be made about an issue like that. So I just encourage people to please reach out to the city, ask questions, engage the city administrator, try to take that perspective into account with any concern that you might have. The city is here to provide services to you, not to hide things from you. That's it.
And just a recap, the Villager Facebook page is not an official Lathrup Village, City of Lathrup Village page. So if you want someone to be in contact with you, you can write on the City of Lathrup Village Facebook page, call, email. I don't know, well, I'm gonna say that part, but I'm not sure that's right. But call, email Mike. He'll be more than happy to help, or any of us, to be truthful. So I just want to keep reiterating, the Villager is a means of communicating amongst residents, not amongst the city, the actual city staff and council. And I think we have finally come to the end of the meeting, and I would take a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So actually, you are out of.
I'm out of order.
You are out of order. But if you would like to come over and talk afterwards, that would be perfectly fine.
So this is my first meeting, so thank you.
Please come back to more.
I will.
I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second it.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.